Right, another video, here we go. So, I'm learning Spanish. I already made a video explaining why, but it's my goal for the end of 2026 to become pretty fluent. I know I'm going to be talking with an accent, whatever, but hopefully I can hold some good conversations in this new language and read a book in Spanish. I think they're kind of my two tells of what I would consider to be the start of fluency. So in this video, I'm going to explain what I'm actually doing to get to that point. It's raining, by the way, outside. I don't know if you can hear that through the microphone, but hopefully not. This is why we've got to learn Spanish, so we can move somewhere a little bit sunnier. No, I'm just joking. I love this depressing country. But first of all, a little backstory. So last year is when I decided that I wanted to learn this language, Spanish. And the first thing I did, I took some lessons, right? I went into a bookshop and I saw they had advertised Spanish lessons. Was it French? Something like that. A few different languages. And I thought, Spanish, that's cool. I kind of want to learn that. So I signed up to 10 lessons, paid for them all. And I quit after 3. So I was going to this thing once a week. I'll paint you the picture. So I show up after work on a Wednesday. And there's me. I'm late, obviously, because of traffic. Only by like 5 minutes. And there's me and there's 9 middle-aged women there. And then this Spanish teacher who was an English guy. And I realized pretty much immediately that environment, this classroom environment, is not the best way to learn anything. And I already knew this from being in school. I hated school. I dropped out of college because you don't learn in those environments. At least I don't learn like that. And but I thought, I'm an adult now, and maybe I just had to reach a level of maturity where I could sit down and look at this man on this whiteboard and learn. And yeah, couldn't do it. So I quit, even though I paid for the whole things. But hey, why waste any more time? So after that, I bought this book. Don't know if you can see that. Madrigal's Magic Key to Spanish. And I'm going to start off by talking about this. So I'm sort of most of the way through this, and it's really, really good. I have 3 criticisms about it, but basically what this book is, it's pretty popular for people that are learning Spanish. This isn't the only thing I'm doing, but I started off this way, and it was fantastic. So basically what this book does is it teaches you the relation between English and Spanish. So it eases you into the language. It explains the similarities. It begins by talking about how loads of words are the same in English and Spanish, which they are. I'm not going to go into it. You can read the book yourself. But then it gradually opens up the language. So you're reading it, and all of a sudden you realize you're reading these like lines and these paragraphs in Spanish. So it's really cool in that way. However, unlike what it claims, it does not teach you how to read, write, and speak Spanish in only a few short weeks. It's a book, after all, and I don't think any book can teach you all of those things in a few short weeks. It does have a really useful bit at the beginning, explaining pronunciation, and it's really helpful. But yeah, the first criticism, it's a book, right? So you can't really learn everything from just that. Secondly, it was written in the 1950s, which means that the way that people talk these days is a little bit different. It teaches you how to speak and read in a very formal manner. Because if you know anything about Spanish, or you very quickly learn once you start learning it, that there's sort of 2 ways of speaking. There's the ustedes way, which is like, it means you. And there's the tú way, which is a little bit more informal, a little bit more conversational day to day. And this just completely neglects the to side of it, T-U with a little flick on it. So that'll make sense if you get into learning the language, but it's I imagine if you do only rely on this, you'll have to readjust afterwards to being a little bit more natural, a little bit more conversational with the to side of the language. Hopefully I'm making sense. I'm terrible at these fucking YouTube video things, but that's the second criticism. The third criticism about it, and it's a personal one, is that you're going to think this is such a ridiculous thing and I need to just get over it. But anything which tells me to do something, like I want to learn the information. I want something to give me the words, give me the information. I don't want anything telling me that I have to do these exercises. And I know it's so ridiculous because I'm trying to learn this language after all, but it's fantastic. And so far, this has taught me the most about the language and the way it works. So I guess this should be part 1 of this video. Sorry, I know this is unorganized, but part 1 is this book, really good, get it, but don't rely on it to teach you everything. It's a book. Right, so the second thing I'm doing, and this is going to be really obvious for anybody that has learned Spanish before because it's a very popular book, and it's this one, 501 Spanish Verbs. I don't know if you can see that. And what it is, it's what it says on the cover. It's a bunch of verbs, because what you realize very early on is that verbs are the words that create the language. You can't just learn what things are. You can't just learn that this is a camera, this is a notebook. There's no point in just learning the words for those, because you can learn how to say every single thing in Spanish in whatever language that you're learning, but then you realize you have no idea how to say a single sentence, right? You can't ask somebody to pass you something. You can't say open the door, close the door. Like you can't tell a story from just learning how to say objects and feelings. So you've got to learn the verbs. But the thing is, the first thing I was doing, and this is how I go into everything, I'm very militant at the start with basically planning on every day getting this book, just drilling the verbs, like how do you say this? And then memorize every single formation. How do you say this? Memorize every single formation. And that's not the most efficient way of learning, because you need to keep in mind that human beings have this incredible ability to pick up patterns in language. So I'm basically not using this book at all, really. I'm only using it to reference specific things. I'm not doing them drills I was doing. What I'm doing instead is this, and this is what I think people need to pick up, because it's been the most efficient thing after Madrigal's fancy little book, whatever it's called, Magic Key to Spanish. And basically what I'm doing now is every day I'm getting up some Spanish content, whether that is on YouTube or maybe a film, something like that that's completely in Spanish. And I'm picking out the sentences that are most relevant to me in my life, and I'm writing them down in this book, this tiny little notebook, so I can carry it around with me, because people will tell you to use flashcards, and I'm not using fucking flashcards. I'm sorry about that. It's just, I'm not carrying around a deck of cards in my pocket so I can get them out on the train or whatever I'm doing. But I will carry around this little notebook. It's a lot more organized, in my opinion. So I'm taking these sentences and I'm using them as much as I can. So what have I written down today? I've written down things like, espero que no llueva. I know that's terrible pronunciation, by the way. Espero que no llueva, which means I hope it doesn't rain. Guess how many times I've said that today? At least 20, and it rained. And then basically I'm learning so many different variations of these words, of these sentences, excuse me, that after a while you understand how they're created, so then you start to create them yourself. You don't need to technically learn that this is how to say this verb in the past tense, in the future tense, in the imperfect, imperfect. See, I don't like this technical side of learning languages, these workbooks. And yeah, like I said, or at least like I should have said at the beginning of the video, this is just personal to me, how I'm learning. You need to find your own personal way of learning how to learn. And for me, when it gets too technical, like people don't even understand how to speak English with the technical sense of that. We just know how to speak it because we know the patterns. It comes naturally. So if you learn these specific sentences, like, what else have I got in here? Tengo mucha hambre. I'm really hungry. I have much hunger. And all these different versions, like, voy a abrir esta ventana. I'm going to open this window. You learn to create your own versions of that, and then you use them in your life. Are you with me on this? I'm kind of all over the place. I didn't write any notes for the video. Definitely should have done that, but hopefully you're following me right now. Because then after so long, because you're writing down sentences that you would be saying throughout your life, to the point where you're just narrating everything that you do in Spanish. So that's just how I'm doing it at the moment. Obviously, we're only in February, only like a month and a half into this whole thing. Really, like a month and a half since I started really taking it seriously. So maybe I'll completely adapt my technique if this isn't working. But I'm telling you now, it is working so far. I am actively learning the language, and it's really cool. It feels fantastic. Like, you need to find a way of doing it to the point that fits how you learn and something that you're going to enjoy, so that you can continue with it for as long as it takes you to become fluent. And that's really what you have to do. I do think the best way to learn, if I had this available, is if I knew people who could speak the language. I knew native speakers of Spanish. Then I think it would supercharge the progress, but I don't. So I'm doing it this way. Being around native speakers would be the ideal thing. I should just go to Spain. I have been to Barcelona, lovely city, had a great time. But yeah, this is, until that point where I am actually there, this is what I'm doing. I'm learning how to speak things that are relevant to me in my life. And I think that's what people should consider doing. A lot of people, they come into learning a language, they pick up a workbook, and they just focus on that to the point where that, yeah, you can understand a language technically. You can understand that this is the perfect tense, the imperfect tense, the future, all the different formations. I mean, they're all in this book, right? But do you really need to know all of that, or should you just learn how to speak the language? So that's it. That's the video. This has been all over the place, but yeah, that's how I'm learning Spanish in 2026. Thank you for listening.